Hey everyone, it's been an incredibly long 2 minutes, very intense, but I'm happy to report I didn't get raped. Hi, I'm Diana Davison, and today I'm going to talk about another person who didn't get raped, the so-called victim in the Judge Robin Camp fiasco, called R versus Wagar. For those of you waiting, Lucy Decatur is up next in the saga of the Ghomeshi transcripts, but I'm taking a little detour because the Robin Camp hoopla is a current event that may result in serious damage to our legal system. Another YouTuber named Clary Jaxon did an excellent video on this case, and I'll link to that below. So first of all, Judge Camp is a Canadian judge under review for, among other things, asking a witness in a sexual assault case, the young woman making the accusation, why she didn't just keep her knees together. The judge did, in fact, say this, though not in the way that the media would have you believe. When you hear that, why didn't you just keep your knees together, the average person would assume that Judge Camp asked that question generically. You'd think he was slut-shaming her or implying she had loose knees. This is drastically taken out of context. The Globe and Mail successfully fought to get redacted transcripts released to the public, so we could inform ourselves of how this trial went down, and I suggest people wanting to hold an opinion about Judge Camp go read the actual transcript. He asks some very good questions, including why when two people are drunk, the man is held doubly responsible and the woman has no responsibility. Good question, Judge Camp. With the knees question, the judge was actually asking for clarification on the physicality of the story the young woman told him. She said she was lifted onto a bathroom counter, then sexually assaulted against her will. Her bottom was in the sink basin, and the basin was part of a regular bathroom counter with an external ledge. She stated that her jeans had been pulled down but were still around her ankles, binding them together. So the judge was trying to figure out how the accused got enough access to her in order to rape her. He was trying to get around the mental picture that prevented her story from being credible. From the transcript. All right, so you were in the middle with your back against the spout. Yes. So your buttocks would have been in the basin. Yes. All right. Yeah. That means your buttocks were lower than your thighs because your bottom was hanging down into the basin. Yes. So the lip of the basin would have been between your vagina and the accused penis. Yeah, but he was licking my vagina. All right. At that point. But when he was trying to insert his penis, your bottom was down in the basin. Or am I wrong? My vagina was not in the bowl of the basin when he was having intercourse with me. All right, which then leads me to the question. Why didn't you just sink your bottom down into the basin so he couldn't penetrate you? I was drunk. And when your ankles were held together by your jeans, your skinny jeans, why couldn't you just keep your knees together? No verbal response. You're shaking your head. I don't know. So, we're looking at sink sex. Seriously, go try it. I did. Sit in the sink and get someone to try to get access to your pussy. Long story short, you can't fuck a girl with her bottom sunk into a sink basin unless she's helping you. If you sit in the sink, you'll find that the basin contacts your body where the leg joins your ass and pushes your legs together. If you don't want to do the sink experiment, go sit on a swing, a fabric one, and see what happens to your knees as you swing back and forth. Now try to sit on that swing while holding your legs apart. So when Judge Camp asks, why didn't you just keep your knees together, he was expressing concern about how difficult it was for her to not have had her knees together. They would have already been being pushed together. She just had to try and keep them that way. On top of the weird physicality of her version of the story, just based on her ass being in the sink, she additionally testified that her ankles were locked together by her skinny jeans, which hadn't been completely removed, just pulled down around her ankles. Go try the swing with your ankles bound together and ask me if you wouldn't be confused too. So, to Judge Camp and other people who might be assigned the task of assessing credibility, he wanted to figure out how this could have happened without further description of force being applied. Did he use the right words? Well, maybe not. But it's also a problem in court where you don't want to ask a leading question that might put words into the complainant's mouth. So if he'd asked if her supposed assailant had gained access in some specific way, all she'd have to do is say, yeah, and problem with her story is fixed. He had to be careful to not lead the witness, or in other words, put words into her mouth. For exactly that reason, I'm not going to say what more plausible story the girl might have come up with, because this case is probably going back to trial. Camp's question is understandable if you ask, how is it possible your knees didn't stay together? That's really just a minor error in wording. So now that you know Judge Camp doesn't think girls get raped because they just can't keep their knees together, let's put the rest of this case into proper perspective. I'll leave aside the technical stuff for now to talk about something no one concerning themselves with Robin Camp has bothered to mention. It's the dead fish in the fucking room. Alexander Wager was falsely accused of sexual assault, and the transcripts make it very clear why, from both his defense and from the accuser's own testimony. At the end of the sexual encounter, Alex's older half-brother Lance discovered them in the bathroom shower and leered in at her, making rude comments about her body and calling her a slut. She screamed at him to get the fuck out of here, and for the rest of the night, Lance tortured this girl with claims that he was going to destroy her reputation. He was going to tell everybody what a slut she was, and even claimed that he and his brother Alex had set up the whole scenario to frame her for her epic sluthood. It was nasty, unrelenting, and it was motivated by Lance's anger that his brother Alex had been the one to have sex with this girl. Lance had been pursuing her all day. These are undisputed facts. Maybe the complainant would have gotten through the mental abuse by Alex's brother if she'd cuddled with Alex all night, but instead, she walked into a room at one point to find Alex crashed out with another girl, kinda snuggled up, and she wrongly assumed that he and the other girl had sex the same night. So she was doubly angry. Even in her courtroom testimony, the complainant got more angry when talking about Lance than when talking about Alex. But here's the biggest problem with the young woman's story. When it comes to how they ended up alone in the bathroom, her and Alex, where this alleged assault took place in the middle of a house party, she says that she felt sick from drinking too much and locked herself in the bathroom. After spending about 20 minutes on Facebook via her cell phone, she says she threw up and then cleaned her mouth out. Then, when she unlocked the door, Alex snuck in, ninja style. She actually uses the word ninja, and locked the door again. How they came to be alone in that bathroom is a fairly important detail if the complainant is outright lying. As it turns out, she was. Alex says they were hitting it off on the dance floor, and then a mutual friend named Skylar told them that she had a joint, and invited Alex, the complainant, and a dude named Dustin to share the marijuana joint in the bathroom, where it was quieter, and they could turn on the fan to dispel the smoke. After sharing the joint, Skylar asked the complainant, "So are you going to have sex with Alex?" Because it was obvious that the two of them, Alex and the complainant, were into each other. And the girl says, "Yes, I am." So Skylar and Dustin exited the bathroom to leave the girl alone with Alex. They didn't want to watch Alex and Girly Poo getting it on. It was obvious that that's where things were going, and that they needed some privacy. Now hold on to your skinny jeans for a second. The prosecutor claimed that Skylar's testimony, that she was literally in the bathroom with them only a moment before sex happened, and left because Girly Poo said, "Yes, I'm going to fuck him," the prosecutor says this is hearsay, inadmissible. Skylar's evidence that Alex and the girl were alone in the bathroom after the girl told Skylar directly that she intended to have sex. Yeah, apparently that means nothing. At this point, Judge Camp says, What? Judge Camp points out that it isn't hearsay at all. I agree with him. The prosecutor informs Judge Camp that according to rape shield laws, the moment the door closed behind them, neither Skylar nor Dustin knows if consent changed, therefore Skylar's testimony is meaningless, even though it contradicts entirely how the complainant said they ended up alone in the bathroom in the first place. So let's back up a second. The credibility question is whether or not complainant chick was alone in the bathroom before Alex entered, like she says, or not alone in the bathroom, like everyone else says. It's a pretty big question of credibility. Even if Skylar left the room and Alex suddenly transformed into the Incredible Hulk, capable of sticking his penis through the sink, like the complainant and prosecutor seem to want us to believe, it still shows the complainant lied about how they got there in the first place. That's a pretty big deal. She wasn't in there throwing up after Facebooking for about 20 minutes, only to find Ninja Alex telling her he's going to rape her. She was in there smoking a joint with 3 other people, 2 of whom testified as to why they were left alone. The complainant answered a blunt question from a friend. Are you going to have sex with him? And she stated, yes, I am. If this isn't good enough, what does consent mean? How do you prove your innocence in a court of law? According to this prosecutor, even having a very rare eyewitness that the woman said, yes, get the fuck out of here unless you want to watch us have sex, well, it's just hearsay. According to the prosecutor and the Women's Legal Education and Action Fund, how did Skylar know if girly chick meant yes right now or yes maybe someday in the near future? Well, if you're seriously asking that question, just consider for a moment, is there a God? Do all my socks literally disappear in the laundry, or does it just seem that way? In fact, just follow Zoolander and spend the rest of your life asking, who am I?
Who am I?
These questions are all ridiculous. What did Judge Robin Camp do wrong? He reached the right conclusion, but included some bad reasons along the way. But he asked some pretty good questions along the way as well. As it turns out, Judge Camp wasn't all that experienced in rape trials and had to keep asking the prosecutor to explain to him why in the hell something wasn't relevant. Those were good questions, and I'll get to them in another video. A lot of them are actually covered in Clary Jaxon's video, mentioned at the start and linked below. For now, because this matter is pressing, be aware that Judge Camp's unhelpful comments were in part a response to Ms. Maugraby's dangerous advice. Maugraby was the prosecutor. She, in fact, said a number of things to instruct Robin Camp that were grossly inaccurate and could lead to a wrongful conviction. Judge Camp explicitly asked the prosecutor to enlighten him on the issues of rape shield laws whenever the prosecutor accused him of making errors. He asked for clarification so he'd apply the precedents properly. But Ms. Maugraby, the prosecutor, gave the judge bad information many times, and it frustrated him. She actually told Judge Camp that if he found the accused's version of events more credible, that wasn't enough to acquit him. That is the opposite of the law. The actual law in cases based on credibility of witnesses with conflicting testimony reads as such. 1. If they believe the evidence of the accused, they must acquit. 2. If they do not believe the testimony of the accused but are left in reasonable doubt by it, they must acquit. 3. Even if not left in doubt by the evidence of the accused, they still must ask themselves whether they are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt of the guilt of the accused on the basis of the balance of the evidence which they do accept. Now, listen to what Judge Camp is told by the feminist Wonder Woman, Ms. Maugraby. Aren't you making this too complicated? If I believe his version, or if I'm incapable of rejecting his version, then on his version it was consensual sex. Maugraby says, it's not enough for you to make conclusions based on his bare assertion that it was consensual. There has to be an evidentiary basis for him to successfully raise that defense. And it's only if there's an evidentiary basis upon which you can... Judge says, well, there is. There is an evidentiary basis. Maugraby says, well, but it's not enough for him to say, there's no one else in the room. Seriously, no wonder Judge Camp started ignoring her advice. It's flat out wrong. Not only wrong, it would result in a miscarriage of justice if he followed the prosecutor's advice. But no one's talking about that. But back to the actual victim here, Alexander Wager. You know, the kid who was falsely accused of sexual assault and then spent about 180 days in jail waiting to clear his name? That guy. When Robin Camp's verdict of not guilty was finally issued, Alexander Scott Wager asked one thing after thanking the judge. He says, "Sir, I have one question. I lost 9 months of my life to this. I had my name slandered. Is What happens to her? What does she get for ruining my life and, tainting my name? He was told to ask his lawyer about that because the answer is nothing. She continues to be seen as the victim.